Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's girlfriend that he had a vasectomy when she was telling about their plans to settle down and have a family? My brother Mark 40 won the lottery when he was 20. It was $1,000 a week for life. He was young and wanted to travel. He dropped out of school and has spent his entire adulthood basically seeing the world. He comes home to visit every few years and we FaceTime with him when he is near a signal. He doesn't travel first class or stay in expensive resorts, so he has actually built up some nice savings. He came home with a girlfriend, Haley, 28, this year. They met when they got stuck in South America during the pandemic. She has been traveling since she graduated from university and she works out of a laptop. I have 50 for live in the same city where I was born. I love it here. I love being close to my parents and my grandchildren, and most of my siblings. Mark hated being the youngest of eight and always swore he would not have kids. Our parents were older when they had him and they didn't have the energy for him, truth be told. Mark came home when he was 30 and told us all that he had had a vasectomy and that he would not be contributing to the world population. Haley is a pretty young thing and she is also intelligent and sweet. I can understand why anyone would fall in love with her. We were having a family BBQ to celebrate Mark being in town. There were maybe 30 people in my parents' yard and house. I was talking to Haley about her future plans now that the world opened up again. She said that she was ready to settle down and start a family. I asked if they were planning on adopting from one of the countries that they had traveled to or if they would try in North America. She said they had talked about it and would be having at least one child of their own. This may be where I messed up. I asked where Mark got his vasectomy reversed or if they were having in vitro fertilization. I know they can harvest sperm from a testicle even after a vasectomy. She went very quiet and went over to Mark. They spoke and they left. Mark called me later that night to scream at me for ruining his life. He hadn't told her and he was planning on just continuing to travel and maybe adopt if they decided on it. He said I shared private medical information and that he never wanted to see me again. I apologized over and over. I seriously had no way of knowing that he was planning a future with this girl without telling her. A pretty big piece of the puzzle might be missing. I feel bad for him, but I think he should have told her. Man, remember when a $1,000 a week for life sounded like a lot of money? That's what I'm wondering. How is he planning on paying for people to travel around the world on $52,000 a year? So they talked about it, and he didn't bring it up on his own terms at all. Wouldn't that have been the time for him to tell his partner about the vasectomy? I worked at an IVF clinic. Wife had every test in the book for 6 months before her husband finally did a semen analysis, which showed that he was firing blanks. He finally fessed up that he had a vasectomy. I felt so bad for the wife. An entire year trying for a baby and 6 months of invasive testing and her husband said nothing. I just don't understand what the rationale is here. He was almost certainly going to be found out. It's a huge betrayal of trust which in many cases would end the relationship. And for what? Temporarily getting a little more sex that he continually lied his way into, and some kind of sick feeling of control through deceit. Stupidly disrespectful doesn't even begin to cover it. What a trash husband. The more I think about it, the more messed up it is. Seriously, what do they think is going to happen? The truth will come out. He's a 40-year-old dating a 28-year-old who has spent the last 20 years traveling the world and had enough insight a decade ago to realize he never wanted to father a child, so got a vasectomy. Dude was never going to tell her. Dude was never going to want to settle down and have a family. He just told her when she wanted to hear so he could keep having a nice, pretty girlfriend who also likes to travel. So what if he wasted her baby-making years that she could have spent finding someone who wanted the same things? Dude was selfish. NTA-op. This is not the kind of representation the CF community wants. And honestly, even if you knew and still innocently asked these questions, still nta, she has a right to know. I think worse and even more insidious, I feel like it was likely he was going to try and when she doesn't get pregnant pretend like it must be a problem with her fertility and make her jump through those hoops and that guilt before he finally gets caught. Menopause doesn't hit until 40s. How the heck was he planning on running out a decade plus clock? He doesn't need to wait 10 years. Only delay it long enough until she's too invested to let go easily. Suggest 2 more years of travel, before babies slow them down. Then 2 more years of why is nothing happening. Maybe 12 months of investigations, then a massive half-truth of oh no's, I know has swimmers. Please don't leave me because I'm infertile. We still have each other. Then he banks on sunk cost fallacy, stopping her from walking out on a 5-plus-year relationship. In her 30s, my partner and I had fertility issues and talk about it openly. So I've heard a lot of perspectives from other people with similar issues. You would not believe the number of men who refuse to get labs done. Instead, they just insist the problem is with the woman, which does great things for their self-esteem. I guarantee OP's brother was going to go this route. He hadn't told her and he was planning on just continuing to travel and maybe adopt if they decided on it. First off, doesn't sound like we was ever going to tell her, and if they decide on it, there is no if he has already made the decision when he chose not to inform her of his vasectomy. If anything, you might have done this girl a huge favor and even your brother as well. He may not think so now, but what if this is what she really wants? Is he going to have kids just to make her happy? Or what if she decides to not have kids to make him happy? Sounds like this could lead to resentment down the road, worse than that he is letting her make an honest choice. Has deciding for her if they said they'd have one of their own and she isn't aware of any complications. To thought he can attest to the devastating effects thinking you're incapable of having kids. My SO was told due to a genetic condition she would never have children naturally. Due to the expense of IVF, she basically accepted the sad truth that her dream of being a mother would never come true. By the time she met me, we were both 38 at that time. One of the first truly deep conversations about our relationship was about her issues with fertility. It made her very upset because she knew I wanted kids and could not provide me any. If the OP's brother planned on not telling his GF, that is downright cruel. TS. The DRs were wrong and she had our son a year later. He is 2 now. This OP 100% saved her. You know, he would have kept pushing the goalpost and then claimed maybe it was a her problem, and then I guess it wasn't meant to be and hoped she never found out. When my ex did this to me, it was when we're more financially stable, when you quit drinking, when we turned 30, etc. I probably missed my chance to have kids because of him. One of the things I will not ever forgive him for. This reminds me of a Dear Produce letter. The husband and wife were trying for a baby, and the wife felt like it was her fault. The husband was being supportive and helping her through it. One day she was talking to her mother-in-law, husband's mother, and the mother asked if he had reversed his vasectomy. Well, she ran for the hills. Why would anyone stay with someone who leaves out some very important info? NTA. You saved her a lot of pain. Her brother is a self-centered jerk. He was just going to lie and string that poor girl along. Thank you so much for telling her the truth, even if it was an accident. God, what an $1 your brother is. Shame on him. Please tell everyone he dates that he has had a vasectomy. He's usually not in the country. If has finally bringing a girl home after all this time and introducing her to you as a potential life partner. You're not wrong for assuming he would be honest with her. His vasectomy is directly related to the family he was promising her. I'm sorry for assuming you'd been honest with your girlfriend regarding your family planning. In the future, I'll operate on the assumption that you're dishonest with your partners instead of thinking the best of you. Yeah, this went through my mind. Sorry bro, for assuming you're not a total tool. I stand corrected. It wasn't private medical information. Literally shared it with the entire family when he was 30 years old. If he wanted it kept private, he wouldn't have told his entire family. Nobody forced him to say anything. He did that on his own. How were you supposed to know that he was lying to this woman's face? And that he was always planning on dragging things out as long as possible before coming clean, or lying and saying he was infertile? You shared the information that happened to be the truth. Look, if they never talked about this and he wasn't truthful about it, and you uncovered the truth in about 5 seconds, you are NTA. And these can be reversed and he can still change his mind about his own kids or adopting. He's had plenty of times to have this convo with this girl. He can find someone else to mess around with that doesn't want kids. His vasectomy was over 10 years ago. The chances of a successful reversal after that long are very slim and not something anyone should be counting on. True. But if he was on board with having a baby with this girl and settling down, they could explore sperm donor options. Then it would be her bio baby, if not his. But it sounds like the GF wanted to settle down and have kids and he really didn't. And when OP casually said some true stuff, it sparked off a conversation where their different life goals became impossible to ignore, which would be doing everyone involved a favor. Except this brother was clearly planning on lying to Haley for a while longer. What a prick. What I don't understand is why people like him don't just find partners who also want to be child-free. Is there something exciting or alluring about tricking someone. They just need to have a bit of nefarious behavior in a relationship to be happy.